All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Dutter with the National Weather Service in Wakefield, and just giving you the morning briefing for Monday for the weather for the upcoming week. First thing I wanted to show you was the latest radar. Notice that these storms over strong to actually severe storms over Maryland, lower Maryland, Eastern Shore are now starting to diminish and dive southward. This is good news because these have been, as you can see, just prolific, absolutely prolific lightning producers as they move through, Dorchester County into Salisbury, as well as likely some pretty strong winds between Hurlock and Hebron as these storms move through. Fortunately, these storms look like they're starting to diminish some, and they should continue to diminish over the next few hours. However, they are a sign of things to come, especially for Virginia and parts of Northeast North Carolina later today, as they are additional storms that are expected to develop and produce very heavy rainfall like these have today as well. Over 2 inches of rain in less than 30 minutes in some spots under the heaviest cores of rain. So now let's go ahead and do our briefing for this morning. There's main highlights are there, again, expecting these thunderstorms to really develop later this afternoon into this evening. They're going to be the slow moving variety, and very, very heavy rain cores with these storms are expected this afternoon. So there is a flood watch for much of the area, especially much of our Virginia counties, as well as parts of interior North Carolina, from later this afternoon until midnight. In addition, some of the storms could also be strong to severe and produce damaging wind gusts. And in fact, there's a Storm Prediction Center just issued a slight risk of severe storms, especially along and west of I-95 for today. In addition, this frontal boundary that's over us now will continue to produce another round of storms later tomorrow into tomorrow evening, with again wind damage and flash flooding possible. We'll get a little bit more about that here shortly. Temperatures will not be quite as warm as they were last week. A little bit more seasonable summertime temperatures, but again, with those seasonable temperatures are going to bring showers and storms really each day, at least chances for storms. And then our marine forecast area is expected to be quiet, low risk of rip currents early this week, and sub-advisory conditions as well. So let's first get into the pattern really quick here. Again, this frontal boundary and this trough of low pressure is really going to be the focus of storm activity for the next few days. I'm really expecting it to blossom this afternoon, and then again on Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening. Continuing, even though this front is going to be trying to dive south of the area by Wednesday and Thursday, the storm chances will continue, although again, not as much coverage as it is going to be the next couple of days. Here's the flood watch for the area right now, and pretty much all of our Virginia counties, except for the Eastern Shore, as well as our interior North Carolina counties. Again, from 4 p.m. until midnight, we are expecting the storms to develop a little bit later in this afternoon than maybe they have in the last few days. But again, between the slow movement of the storms, as well as the very, very moist atmospheres that's in place, we are expecting decent chances of an inch or two of rain with localized 3 to 4 inches or plus possible. And especially if that heaviest rain occurs over urban areas or low-lying and poor drainage areas, there could be some flooding and perhaps some brief road closures as well. Here's the heavy rainfall potential for the next few days. Again, today, these days are wrong, so this should be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But again, the slight risk of excessive rainfall across much of the area today. Marginal risk on Tuesday. We'll see if that is updated with later forecasts. There's some signals that especially the southern part of the area, could have a higher chance for heavy rain on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, with that front south of the area, maybe some scattered thunderstorms, but no excessive rainfall is expected. Instead of using this slide to show the simulated radar, I'll actually bring this in and show a little bit more detail about the radar. This is model-derived radar imagery from our HRRR forecast model, and this is the latest run. And notice that this is at 3 p.m. There's not much going on. There may be some continuing activity up on the eastern shore, but notice between 3 and 5 how this really starts to develop, especially across the southern, south of, you say it's generally along and south of 64. And then this evening, just see how this blossoms. And again, this isn't the exact replacement of where these storms will be at 7, 8, 9 o'clock, but you get the idea of how much stronger, or how much more widespread these storms will get as the late afternoon into the evening goes on. And there could also be some better storms, even though this model isn't depicting it further up into the Middle Peninsula and even into the Northern Neck as well later this afternoon and especially this evening. And by midnight, you can see that this moderate to locally heavy rain is expected to continue. So the sunset won't necessarily cause these storms to diminish with such a high moisture content in the air. And then overnight they should move offshore and diminish. This is morning, but then notice how again by mid to late afternoon, this is 5 o'clock tomorrow, we're expecting another round of storms. So really focusing on the southern half of the area tomorrow. With moderate to heavy rain possible, getting into North Carolina and points south. So that the timing of storms today, again, expecting the greatest chances late this afternoon into this evening, diminishing overnight. And this highlighted area where we could see those localized amounts of 4 inches or more, which would lead to some flash flooding, again, especially if it was over an urban or low-lying area. And tomorrow, maybe starts a little bit earlier tomorrow, but even so, again, sort of the same idea with the best precip chances later tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening, with, again, maybe the little better focus a little further south tomorrow, south of 64. But really, any place, south of 64, I think has a chance of seeing those locally higher amounts of rain tomorrow. Quick look at the 3-day totals. This is through Tuesday. Notice that there's some areas that will see potentially 2 to 3 inches of rain locally. Then for the rest of the week, again, those scattered showers will continue, showers and storm, but they will not drop as much precipitation with that front to the south. In addition, there is that slight risk of severe weather that I mentioned, with the best chances, again, along and west of I-95, with some wind gusts of up to 45 to 60 miles an hour, certainly enough to bring down some trees, similar to what, maybe not quite as intense of what we've seen the last few days, but still similar to what we have seen the last few days. Unlikely we'll see hail or tornadoes today, and again, that localized flooding, as I've mentioned. And there is also that marginal risk for severe weather across much of the area, especially along and south of 64 on Tuesday. Probably the better chances would be down in far southern Virginia, but none into northeast North Carolina. Nonetheless, there is a marginal risk for much of the area. And again, that would be mainly for some localized wind gusts of 45 to 60 miles an hour. With all this rain and cloud cover, the heat index, the heat threat over the next few days, especially after today, will be less than it has been. The humidity will come down some, especially on Wednesday into Thursday, behind that front somewhat. But we are expecting to to see the heat build again late next week into next weekend. Maybe not as bad as it was this past weekend, but still we are expecting to see that above normal temperatures come in later in the week. And the high temperatures and max heat index for the next few days. Uh, the core of the strongest, with peak heat for today, maybe heat index values 103 to 104, maybe 105. These might be a tad high, but then subsiding to heat index values of less than 100 for midweek. And our high temperatures will be a little bit more on the pleasant side, somewhat, at least in the 80s, not reaching those 90-degree temperatures by Wednesday. Quick look at the regional forecast. The coolest days are Tuesday and especially Wednesday, and then again building those temperatures up by Friday, maybe some mid to upper 90s again by Friday, but again not as warm and not as long-lived as this past weekend's heat wave. And again, notice these chances of showers and storms really each afternoon and evening right through the weekend. Rip currents, again, low. Rip currents are expected for the next few days, so good for folks to go swimming if the thunderstorms stay away. And for the next week and beyond, for the 6 to 10 day, again, above normal temperatures are favored. And again, with this frontal system really not moving too much, we do have above normal precipitation favored. Again, it'll be just, scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms, which are very normal for this time of year, but nonetheless, they could, continue to drop locally heavy rain. And just quickly, our marine wind potential for the next few days, generally south wind becoming more easterly by Tuesday into Wednesday. But really, these are maximum wind gusts, really no wind gusts much more than 15 to maybe locally 16, 17, 18 knots on Wednesday. But again, very outside of thunderstorms, very quiet marine conditions, wind conditions. And the waves are generally 1 to 2 feet or less in the bay, 3 feet or less over the ocean. So again, a very pleasant marine period of marine weather outside of thunderstorms. And the tropics continue to be very quiet, at least the Atlantic basin. Out in the Western Pacific, there was a very strong typhoon that impacted Guam yesterday and last night. But the Atlantic basin will stay very quiet for the next 7 days. And that is all I have. So I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.